Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're looking into a monument so impossibly massive, it took over 2,000 years to build. We're talking about an undertaking that quite literally bankrupted entire empires as it carved its way across rivers, barren deserts, jagged mountains, and straight out into the sea. This is the Great Wall of China, the largest man-made structure on Earth. How did the world's greatest defense become its most tragic failure? It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it? We're going to look at a structure steeped in mystical legends and an unthinkably dark human cost, which ultimately failed at the very thing it was designed to do. Let's dive into the majesty, the misery, and the ultimate military shortcomings of this ancient wonder. Part 1. The scale of the stone dragon. So let's start with the raw numbers, because they're absolutely staggering. 21,196 kilometers. That is the total length of the wall. Now, it's important to note that this isn't just one single continuous straight line of brick and stone. It's actually made up of tons of different sections, with some walls running completely parallel to each other across the landscape. Okay, 21,000 kilometers is kind of hard to wrap your head around, so let's put that distance into perspective. Imagine traveling the entire massive length of India, all the way from Kashmir down to Kanyakumari, 3 times over. Or for another comparison, if you were in Bangladesh, it would be like making the trip from Dhaka to Cox's Bazar 26 times. It is literally mind-boggling. In fact, traversing this distance is so insanely difficult that it wasn't until 1985 that someone successfully trekked its entire length. This guy named Ya Huidong, along with 2 of his friends, made the grueling journey through some of the most unforgiving terrain on the planet. We're talking snow-covered deserts to the Yellow River. It took them an incredible 510 days. That's 17 solid months of just walking. Now, because of how it snakes and winds its way over those steep, rugged mountain ridges, from a distance, the wall genuinely looks like a massive, moving creature. That's why it got the nickname the Stone Dragon. But there's also a really rich cultural layer here. Local legends say that a divine dragon actually flew ahead to mark the path for the builders to follow. In Chinese culture, the dragon represents power, wisdom, and divine protection, which is exactly what the empire hoped this massive wall would provide. Part 2. The nomadic border threat. Why would an empire undertake such an impossible task over 2,000 years ago? Well, it really comes down to geography and survival. On one hand, you had the Chinese settlements along the Yellow River. They had developed advanced irrigation, successful farming, and immense wealth. But just to the north, in Mongolia and Manchuria, nomadic tribes faced thousands of kilometers of barren deserts and severe resource scarcity. Driven by pure necessity, these nomadic tribes frequently raided the wealthy agricultural settlements to loot resources. The wall was born out of a desperate need to stop those incursions. Part 3. The world's largest cemetery. Take a moment to just absorb this phrase. The Great Wall is frequently referred to as the world's largest cemetery, because building a 21,000-kilometer wall over 2 millennia requires a workforce of unimaginable size. And behind that breathtaking architecture is a deeply horrifying human cost. Over 2 million laborers were thrown into this project over its history. And we're not talking about willing craftsmen. This workforce was comprised largely of commoners, peasants, and prisoners serving out harsh punishments. A staggering 500,000 lives were lost during the construction of the Great Wall. Let that sink in for a second. 500,000 people died building this defense. Because of this massive scale of death, many people, historically and honestly even today, consider the whole structure to be cursed by the immense suffering it caused. The conditions these workers endured were visceral and brutal. They faced 4-year terms of forced labor, working back-breaking 16 to 18-hour days. They toiled in extreme freezing winters and scorching summers, often suffering from severe starvation and disease. And the pace of construction was so incredibly frantic that when workers died, whether from exhaustion or falling into ravines, there was simply no time to return their bodies to their home villages. The dead were just tossed into trenches and buried directly alongside or right beneath the wall itself. Part 4. Ancient engineering and defenses. This begs a really fascinating question. How exactly does a structure built long before the invention of modern cement manage to survive in such brutal conditions for thousands of years? The ancient engineering process was genuinely brilliant. First, they laid a massive granite base to stabilize the structure. Then, they stacked giant baked bricks. And these weren't standard bricks. They were about 4 times the size of the ones we use today. But the real secret here is step 3. To bind it all together, they didn't use cement.
They created a special, nearly indestructible mortar by mixing lime with sticky rice powder. Yes, sticky rice water was the chemical secret weapon that held the stone dragon together.
And the sheer military logistics involved once the wall was built are just mind-blowing. The average height was 23 feet, and it was specifically designed to be wide enough for 10 infantrymen or 5 cavalry on horseback to march side by side right along the top. They constructed an unbelievable 25,000 watchtowers, spaced roughly 100 meters apart. Each tower base had rooms for soldiers, meaning the wall's total network had the capacity to house and mobilize up to 600,000 troops at once.
It was a highly sophisticated defense machine. They had an entire communication network running the length of the country. By day, soldiers in the watchtowers used flags or ringing bells to signal approaching enemies. By night, they used fire signals. The walls were lined with specific firing holes designed for shooting arrows or early artillery shells. And amazingly, there was a vast network of secret underground tunnels built beneath the wall to let soldiers move completely undetected. Even today, thousands of these secret tunnels remain undiscovered, holding historical mysteries we have yet to unearth.
Part 5, a magnificent military failure. Because here is the dramatic historical twist. Despite the sticky rice engineering, despite the intricate signaling systems, and despite the blood and sweat of 2 million laborers, the Great Wall fundamentally failed its primary objective. The wall was built to keep out the world's most fearsome conquerors, but they simply went right through or around it. In the 13th century, Genghis Khan successfully breached the wall. In 1550, Mongol forces attacked again. In 1644, the Manchu army crossed the wall, completely overthrowing the government and ending the Ming dynasty. By the 20th century, it had entirely lost its purpose as a military barrier, serving only briefly as a training ground for soldiers during World War II. So, what is the legacy of the stone dragon today? Well, while it failed as a military barrier against ancient armies, it has succeeded brilliantly in the modern era as a living museum. Today, it attracts over 10 million tourists every single year. It is no longer a tool of war, but a staggering monument to human endurance and survival. Which leaves us with the ultimate paradox. We marvel at its scale, its engineering, and its beauty, but we absolutely cannot ignore the 500,000 souls buried beneath its bricks. Was the horrific human cost worth the creation of an enduring world wonder? It really forces us to ponder the true price of the monuments we celebrate today. Thanks for exploring this with me, and I encourage you to keep questioning the history hidden within these ancient stones.